Welcome to Small Town Times. We have two North Bay councilors today. One is no longer one, and I'm going to start over. Welcome to Small Town Times. Between two Daves is the order of the day. We have Mark King, councilor with North Bay. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for inviting me, Dave.
Right
Dave and Dave.
And we have former councilor Dave Mendicino. And we're going to tag team and get all over Mark here on whatever issues come up. How are you feeling? You up for a fight?
No, I'm far past that, Dave. I'm far past that.
Yeah. No, it would be pretty tame, actually.
We're going to be tame today, Mark. There's no fighting.
This is actually interesting meeting last night at council, Mark. There was a vote on going forward on the RFP for the community center at Omichelle, but although there's a notice of motion, and Peter's calling a meeting within 24 hours so we can get that taken care of. What do you think of what happened last night? What was discussed?
And my own personal feeling, actually, I was certainly concerned about the financing of the project and what was developed by staff in the report. And I did indicate that in my remarks at the meeting about the 14.7 million in special debt that was required in order to make that work. I certainly thought that there was a need to take another look at the OLG surplus to see what kind of money was in that. The indication from staff was $1 million out of that. Hotel accommodation tax, another 100 or another million out of that. And I'm not quite sure where that reserve stands at this particular point, but the real reality in this whole process, Dave, from my viewpoint is we've got a real interesting process developing in the economy. I think that process has really been magnified on the federal level. We're seeing it at the provincial level over announcements that literally, I believe it was Bill 124 in the last couple of days, about some $13.7 billion in additional money that the province is going to have to shell out to meet those requirements. And then, you look at announcements that were made by MCTV literally in the last 2 days, leaving only one person in that office in Sudbury. Everyone else is gone. These are substantial adjustments that are going on in our economy. And really the question will be, once that whole process comes back to council, is whether or not we're actually able to afford to do it. That's what it'll boil down to. So,
what's the financial finance portion at this point? 14 point some million?
Yeah, that was 14.7 million in special debt. Yeah.
So that and plus, how much is being taken from in total from those other areas?
Well, they had a complete list. I mean, obviously there was the federal initiative. I think it was about 25. Then there was another initiative, and I can't remember just exactly what that number was. There was also a capital levy of 2.9 million that caught my eye, and I tried to find out prior to the meeting just exactly what that was. When you think of a capital levy, to me a levy is really special tax on capital projects. So there's no question this is concerning, and it's a hell of a bite to actually make work. And I'll be really interested in seeing what comes back from the construction industry. I still don't feel overly comfortable with this net zero. And whether or not the 25 million that's proposed from the federal government actually meets the requirement of the bill, and I suspect that many of the construction companies are probably leery of it, because what is it, right? When you look at an arena, in my mind, an arena is, it consumes energy. It has no alternative but to do that. It's whether or not you're able to build it correctly so that, you mitigate those operating costs. And we never, ever did see a proposed operating cost for the arena. That was one of the things I was extremely interested in, to see, whether there were opportunities there to reduce costs, because we looked at West Ferris. We knew exactly what that was costing. It was up, last time I looked at it, was about $365,000 a year, a single ice surface with the same basic costs as a dual ice surface. So when you look at the rationale of how these facilities operate, a double rink made total sense, because you could double your revenue.
But you voted for it anyways.
I did, because I want to see where it's going.
Basically,
and quite frankly, Dave, I mean, I may have said this last night. Enough is enough. Like, we've got to move here one way or the other, because it's gone on far too long. And it's it's really, it's created a split in the community, because there are a number of people. Quite frankly, I read the comments. I understand what people are saying, and obviously the senior population isn't supportive, but yet then we've got a young population with kids that certainly I think a lot of them are supportive. We did have this discussion after the fact at the meeting last night, and recognizing how female women's hockey has ballooned. It's just ballooned. So there's actually a responsibility, I think, on the part of council to recognize those uses and to make sure that we're able to provide opportunity for everyone.
What do you think there, Dave?
Well, I totally agree with Mark's comments that this has gone on way too long. It's been going on for 12 years.
Well, you guys have been involved with stick handling it over the decades.
So 12 years. We did. We didn't just wake up one morning and decide that West Ferris Arena and double rinks. Back in 2011, 2012, we wanted to get a handle on what these facilities, what kind of shape they were in, how long they would last. We were already hearing that the ice surfaces were too small, and that I don't know how many times I heard it from parents that went away for their kids' tournaments, and they'd be going to these double pads, quadruple pads, NHL ice surfaces. Some parents were concerned about their kids getting out there as they got older and better. If you've ever played at double rinks, it's small. You feel like you're on top of each other. West Ferris Arena is the same thing. So back in 2012, we commissioned the multi-use recreational facility study. Extensive input from the user groups, and the main thing that came back from that study was you'd be wasting your time. Obviously, this was a consultant's opinion. You'd be wasting your time trying to rehab double rink and West Ferris Arena. Here's a 15-year time horizon on how you can replace both, if that's what council wanted to do. And that was in 2012. We're in 2024. We haven't even done the first one yet. But I don't know if you remember this, Mark, but back in 2014, when you were elected chair of community services, I was the outgoing chair. And you and I had a conversation. And the one file that I had on the desk was the replacing West Ferris Arena. That's it. That was in 2014. And I said to Mark at the time, Mark, this is the priority. I mean, it's such a big project. We've seen financially how big it is. We've seen just by the time elapse how big it is. So that's 2014. The 2014-2018 council, they selected a site. I wasn't there, but I remember it was tough slugging sometimes. Yeah. And then the 2018-2022 council, we confirmed the site. We set up a financing plan. That's where the capital levy comes from, by the way. The last council set up, we have to set up a financing plan for it. And the design. And man, oh man, I heard your frustration last night in your comments because we were ready with a design ready to go to tender in 2021. Yeah. And unfortunately, I mean, Castleholme, the issue of Castleholme and financing and the budget Castleholme had gone from 90 to 120 million. That was council's number one priority last term. So we needed to fix the financing there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
so reliving a little bit of a Groundhog Day here. Yeah.
Right. So, anybody now that says any proponent of the community center is creating a false sense of urgency, that's ridiculous. Try telling the user groups that after 14 years. Try telling some individuals
you know a quote that I remember that sort of sticks out in my mind is when they were making the choice on the location. And one of the very Bosches, I think it was Tanya, we've studied this enough. And at that time, I said, you haven't put to bed the other options weren't studied enough to conclusively get people to stop talking about them. You've studied them enough for staff and council to feel comfortable that this Omichelle was the best location, but it didn't convince other people. Right. Well, so what was left as a hangover was West Ferris is always a bit of a question mark. Now, the false narrative of the roof being the big issue, and actually it's the flat roof now, and other things that wasn't sort of itemized and shown to be concrete evidence that we got to walk away from West Ferris Community Center. And there was no plan. I said this during the municipal election campaign. There's no plan. Somebody should work on a plan on what to do at West Ferris if you're taking the arena out, and what you're going to do so that that community can feel better about it and put their pitchforks down. Here we go. Bill Antler's coming to council on February 27th. He was at our Ferris Business Networking meeting last night. Everybody's going to get all up in arms because they're not convinced West Ferris Arena is a walk-away teardown. They think there should be a plan for something there, and there's not, and nobody wants to talk about it.
So
politically, I'm just saying there was ways to get those issues and the location out of the way, so that you can just focus on building a new arena.
So it was done the other way around.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying one way is right or wrong, but
that's a decision
that was made. That's a decision that was made at the time. We need to focus on, because it's such a big project, financing the thing, getting it all up and running. And when that's done, when shovel's in the ground, we're going to turn to that property, West Ferris Arena, because it is a great piece of property. We're going to consult with the community in West Ferris. What do you want done with this process? It could very well mean the building does not get eventually torn down. But as an ice surface, as an ice rink, it's not doable anymore. It's not even a community center anymore, really. The only thing that's happening out of there is hockey right now. So
actually, didn't Justine say she was there for a public meeting? You had to take the elevator?
Upstairs. Yeah.
Had to keep the pushing the button?
Yeah.
Upstairs at the...
Yeah.
Well,
I'm just saying, we wouldn't be talking about this right now. If a new plan for West Ferris at the center of that community, because Omichelle is not the center of West Ferris, it's not. Nobody believes that. It's not a community center because it's not in the center of the community.
But it will be eventually, Dave, and that's
I know. But it's the people today that are paying for it.
Long-term plan of what's gone on there. I mean, the city owns substantial property right back to the river.
Yeah,
and we had all the concerned people from Premier Road over a fourplex development that was at committee about a week ago. And, I listened to what they had to say, and they were absolutely right on in their comments about the lack of improvement in that particular area. And, I spent time on that street during the election and talked to a lot of people down there. There's no question in my mind that has to be improved. But what's taken place over a number of years, and I was involved in that, the portion of property between Omichel and Premier Road actually was purchased by the city. So there's a large land block there that's available for the city to do what it wants to do with it. We talked about, the issue of the amount of traffic on Premier Road, and the opportunity is actually there now to actually circle Premier Road and come back out to Lakeshore Drive through the Omichel property. So there's lots of opportunity there in the future. There's no doubt in my mind that development will take place down there. We at the arena committee level, we did have some discussion about West Ferris and what it would look like. The city of Toronto last count had 17 outdoor artificial ice surfaces. We have 0 here, nothing. And when you look at the weather circumstances we've gone through this winter, they're probably trying to put the rinks back together, the outdoor rinks back together right now. But I was at Double Rinks during the Christmas holidays, and they provided time for free skating over there. That arena was full of public people skating on that ice surface. And it was an eye-opener for me because I went to look at the ice plant and what's been done over there to see that many people actually interested in doing something like that. So the reality of this whole process is that I know we're short an outdoor artificial ice surface. When I go to Toronto, it is unbelievable to go to Nathan Phillips Square and watch the community in that area skating on that outdoor ice surface when, it's 20 degrees or 30 degrees, very, very warm, where we can't provide that here in any way, shape, or form. So we've missed a step in this process. I think probably there may be an opportunity there, depending on the overall condition of West Ferris, for some sort of outdoor artificial ice surface, because there were
Calendar has with a roof.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I see happening there. That actually blends to the community. Not only one sport, which seems to take up an awful lot of the overall cost of it, but it would really provide a tremendous opportunity for just the general public to use it.
That's the excitement about that parcel of land.
Yeah.
The public, the community is working with literally a clean slate, whether it means keeping the structure there or not. Maybe those discussions should have been had first, but nothing's been committed to that property. You are starting from scratch, so those discussions can start now if council ends up going ahead with it. But I'm so happy that it seems like this council is ready to pull the trigger on this arena. With this community center, we need it. Okay, the sense of urgency is if we need to create a sense of that sense of urgency has been created because it's been 12 years since we started there. So that property, West Ferris Arena, whether it was always the dressing room, the roof over the dressing rooms that was the issue. There's a lot of pressure being put on that wall in the of the main structure. Hey, if you could find a way to finance and leave an outdoor rink there that's chilled, has the chillers in. Yeah. That would be beautiful. That's one of the issues with Calendar, quite frankly, is they've got this roof over it, but the ice isn't, there's no chillers there. So
yeah, I think they made a misstep there when they replaced the black pavement with concrete, they should put the pipes in then.
Yeah.
Well, let's switch gears here because you can beat the hell out of this horse, and we always do, and I love doing it, especially when I get to say that politicians missed a step here. I think you should have got ahead of the game on West First, but no big deal. It'll get talked about. DSAB.
Yeah.
What's going on for this year? What millions of dollars are we going to spend about the homeless this time?
Well, first off, just to state, I mean, and good for DSAB, they've increased the homelessness budget from $2.3 million to $5 million. So, leading to your question, that's interesting.
So, this is work in project process, right? And it's been ongoing for quite a length of time. And I can say I need to make this point, Dave, that in my travels around the province in all kinds of locales, we are so ahead of the curve with respect to what we've done here. And, and Dave was on the board when we really were able to leverage the province in the Northern Pines development. Over a period of time, it's taken time, and this is it aggravates me, and I push all the time staff, because I want to see it happen quicker because I know it's the right avenue to go down. But we're now getting to the point where we'll be able to open phase 3 of that particular development, and the money is there now to make that happen. And I must say that the provincial government has been extremely cooperative. I had the opportunity to make a presentation to the new Minister of Housing, Minister Calandra, last month in Toronto to talk about some of the other initiatives that we were looking at in a pilot project to try and alleviate this homeless problem that we've got right across the country. And our proposal
across the continent, it's everywhere.
I mean, it's unbelievable to watch happen. But so we made the presentation to him. This was driven by staff and supported by the board. That we would actually go out into the market in the community. And when I say the community, I'm talking about Nipissing district. I'm not only talking about North Bay, because what we're seeing now is homeless issues, specifically in Sturgeon Falls, which we dealt with, pretty well dealt with it about 2 months ago, where we never had them before. Mattawa is opening my understanding I heard last night, Mattawa is opening a soup kitchen. So, and I know right now, there are issues surrounding the gathering place from a financial standpoint, because these things are hard to operate. And I think probably we're going to get to the point where there's got to be line items in budgets to support these organizations because of the work that they do. And I was just reading a report late last night about housing in general and the support systems that really the federal government has got to. They've got to do something. I mean, they're just. It is incredibly disappointing to watch what's going on. We will probably have a motion coming forward to council over the Reaching Home funding, federal funding, which is due to discontinue in April of this year. And that Reaching Home funding, we actually received a top-up in the last 3 months of some $222,000. That money was actually used for security and upgrades in and around the warming center that we have now. So you can't underestimate the importance of the funding issue, but the reality is we need housing. We need housing. And this latest report that is gone to the federal government really draws attention to what that really is. And do
you have any social housing coming up?
Well, Dave, I'd love to drop a shovel in the ground on the property that we own on Lakeshore Drive, right across from Tim Hortons. We own that property. We have a plan for development there, along with retail options that actually could work on the underside of that.
Which property is this?
Directly across from Tim Hortons.
In Marshall?
Right across from the old North Bay Chrysler site.
Oh, okay.
So that's a large vacant property that we own on that particular corner. The problem is it's twofold. It's number one.
Is that the property in front of that big apartment building?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, we own that apartment building. That's part of DSSAB's.
So how much more property is available? To
Well,
develop?
right out to Lakeshore Drive on that full corner is available for development.
So another one of the same buildings, maybe.
Yep. But the problem is, Dave, the problem is they, based on, and we've had staff look at this, whether or not we could pull a trigger on a build and make it work. We could probably do the construction end of it, but it's the long-term financing because you're basically pushing money out the door to subsidize the rent because somebody has to pay for it. And this is the real tough question about how you make these things work. And as I indicated to the Minister of Housing, we're prepared to be a partner. DSSAB is prepared to be a partner, but we need the support of the private sector. Number one, you've got to have that because I don't care who it is. They build, right? They know how to build. They know how to put these plants together. Government doesn't know how to do that. It may facilitate it and provide some of the financing, but at the same time, to make this work, because we've got money, as Dave knows, we have money sitting right now, probably over $7 million sitting there that we worked on over a number of years to accumulate so that at some point, once the opportunity presented itself, we would then become a partner in some sort of social housing build. But we got shut out of, as Dave knows well, we got shut out of 2 rounds of rapid housing money at the federal level. And that was tremendously disappointing. The second round, we were what was called through the door with Central Mortgage and Housing, and we felt we were there and that something was going to happen. My understanding is there was insufficient money in the program to provide support for smaller communities.
Which is very, very frustrating because, the problem is everywhere, yet those funds seem to be earmarked for larger urban centers. And it's frustrating because, Nipissing District Housing Corp and DSSAB last term made a strategic decision to sell 2 properties, one being the downtown walkway, which we netted about $1 million out of there, and the other one was Dr. McDougall? McDougall School, which we had millions of dollars of equity tied up. We sold that. I think we netted over $3 million for that. Between what we already had, as Mark said, we've got $7 million sitting, waiting to leverage, yet we seem stuck because, that property we rezoned by Dr. McDougall up to 60 units. There's another piece of property that's ready to go.
Yeah, so I can tell you and we basically gave that property away, Dave, because we had hoped that there was going to be indigenous development on that particular property. And this particular point, it's kind of up in the air because I think it's probably a financing issue that they're facing, and the same reality that DSSAB faces is that you can do the construction portion of it, but how do you operate it for 20 years or 25 years? Who's going to backstop that cost is really the issue. And this is, where upper levels of government have actually failed communities without question. And I can tell you that I've and our senior staff have worked extremely hard with senior staff at the city and the planning department, trying to maintain some sort of a connection, because the city is in the process actually now of trying to leverage federal development money. I know I'd heard 2 days ago that Sudbury received a large influx of money for their housing program. I haven't had a chance actually to follow that up, but I know the applications were made by the city. The process that we think will happen is that we'll work in conjunction with the city of North Bay through our housing authority to put something in the ground and get this social housing and this housing issue off our plate.
Do you need to do that before the next federal election? Because the leading candidate for the Conservatives says he's going to cut, stop spending, get us back on track, get us out of debt. And that doesn't mean investment, does it?
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's areas.
I'm just jerking your chains here,
federal.
boys.
I mean, first off, the federal government, current federal government's been spending money like it's. So I can understand the cut. But man, oh man, if you start saying that you're not going to invest into housing, I mean that's a nationwide issue right now. So
is that what? I haven't seen the Conservative Party's platform. We just witnessed that Cassidy Villeneuve's going to be the candidate here.
Yep.
She worked for Pierre Poilievre.
I don't know if she worked directly for him, but she did work for, I believe, ministers. Yeah. So
I don't know. How do you feel about going into we don't know who's going to be running for the Liberals, right? Should be interesting.
Loaded question, Dave.
Very
loaded, right?
Yeah.
No, I realize that. I was there, right?
Yeah.
I actually watched the process because I was highly interested in it.
I bet you were.
Yeah.
They booted you out last time, right?
Yeah. And, to be honest with you, I don't know this Cassidy Villeneuve at all. I have no idea who she is. I suspect what's happened here is that there was a real initiative on the part of the federal government to get her elected, quite frankly. I think that's
the Conservative Party's federal branch wanted her. Right. Yeah, that's why I suspect.
She's, and I know right now for a fact she's tremendously connected with a number of provincial ministers. Obviously, you watch social media, so you know who's commenting. MP in Peterborough, for example, all of these different people that have supported her, and I guess that's good to a certain extent. It's my understanding. She lived in Ottawa for basically the last 5 years, and I did talk to her, and she was trying to find a home in North Bay, which is good. We have young people here. If she wants an excellent example of how best to serve your party, the needs of your party, and the needs of your riding, she needs to look no further than our MPP, Vic Fideli. I mean, the money he has brought to this region, creating jobs and replacing infrastructure over the Conservatives' tenure since 2018 has been unprecedented. But he's out there all the time slugging it out for his party as well. So he's, I hope Cassidy realizes that there's a lot of issues here in Nipissing that need to be addressed from a federal level. And if her party gets elected, then she's got to represent Nipissing and fight for what is needed here. And housing, in my opinion, is number one.
Mark said it, we've been shut out over the last 4 or 5 years. It's extremely frustrating when we're doing what we need to do locally to leverage ourselves and be ready, yet the federal government is not able to come to the table.
Yeah, and over the years I've watched, the development of North Bay Airport, right? And really a lot of that, especially through COVID, was on the back of the taxpayers in the city of North Bay. And I always, I can't get my head around it, Dave. The fact that it's a regional airport. Let's face it. Without question, it's a regional airport. And, I was deeply disappointed in the process as it unfolded as far as the PFAS loading was concerned. So these are very, very large issues that are circulating in the community. And the next MP needs to be able to understand what's going on, number one. And when I say that, Dave, I say that by suggesting you need to understand the community. Mm-hmm. And whether or not that's an option at this point, we'll have to wait and see just exactly how it plays out, because there's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on at the city of North Bay level. I can tell you there's a lot going on at Castleholm, and just to make sure everyone understands this, we're working hard to alleviate cost issues to municipalities in the region, and I'm hopeful that things will turn around in August when the first stage of Castleholm is opened, and it relieves the pressure on all the surrounding communities. And I was involved in meetings again when I was at Roma with senior levels of long-term care, explaining our situation and where we are. There are 4 long-term care homes that actually missed out on the new funding initiative that the province put forward. So it created a number of problems, and I know, regional mayors are very concerned about what's going on, as the mayor is in North Bay, about what the impact of that whole thing will be. So we're trying to solve those problems. The question, that kind of makes me think about whether or not there will be competent people at the federal level that really understand what's going on, or will they become pawns in a government really only interested in their vote in the big picture? So it'll be interesting to see, right?
This is where she's going to have to really step up.
Stuff,
and
this is tricky stuff. You got to understand the politics.
Yep.
I honestly, as a strong candidate, both NDP and Liberal, could change what we think could happen here. It could. I don't know. It's.
But let's face it. I mean, given the challenges that we face over the coming years, ideally you'd want your representative, federal representative, their party to be in power, right? So she's going to have to work hard to get elected, number one. And she's to do that, she needs to really understand what's going on in Nipissing. And she seems like a go-getter, so I think she will get there at some point if she hasn't already. But if she gets elected and she goes to Ottawa, that's where the rubber hits the road, and it can't just be what the party wants. She's got to be representing Nipissing, because that's why she's there. She got elected in Nipissing, not in Ottawa.
Well, I hope I can have her in for an interview and get to know her a little bit, see where she's at. Oh, okay. We just need another 5. Yep. Thank you. That was Bill Antler. He just got here. Yeah, I think you guys are talking about some valid points there. If it's almost like when Monique came in, we said she was kind of parachuted in for the party, but she was at a higher level of experience and ability. She was a lawyer, right? Wasn't she? Right. So I know that the Conservative Party is really eyeballing Nipissing. Pierre's been here a couple of times, right? And there's a weakness because Anthony's retiring. Anthony Rhoda's retiring. If he turned around and ran, you guys would be in trouble. Because I think there's people that would like to give him another vote because he got a rough ride on the whole thing that happened at Queen's Park, right? And not Queen's Park, but at the House of Commons with Hunka. I would think he would have a chance. So
Anthony is extremely popular in his riding, and you're right. If he was running, then it would be a real dogfight.
But that would be a problem if the Conservatives get in power in Ottawa, right? If we're Liberal at the time when they're on the warpath there. So
in watching past federal elections, it's obvious to me that if there was a clean sweep across the province, right, and the Conservatives were in power, who do you think is going to get the ear of the Prime Minister? Right? I mean, who's going to get it? And, you look at senior people that have been inside that particular party over the years. Obviously, they're going to get the ear of the Prime Minister. Whether or not individuals would be prepared to push the panic button and create issues at the federal level, as far as the riding is concerned, it would be interesting to watch. And I can tell you honestly, Dave, that was always in the back of my mind when I ran, and the need to understand what's going on in your community and the need to be there for your community is absolutely ultimate in the process, because they're electing you. Someone in Ottawa is not electing you. They're electing you. And they expect you to perform for your community, and that's what you're there for.
I wonder if the provincial Conservatives are helping the cause. There seems to be stepping all over themselves and tripping up on a lot of different issues, even though Nipissing benefits from MPP Fideli's abilities. Across the province, like all I see is mistake after mistake, but a little bit skeptical and cynical about all these things.
Well, I mean, you know what? It's interesting to watch, because if you looked at past parties, right, they step on themselves and continue on. But they wouldn't try to right what was done. And you got to give him credit. I mean, he's able to come out of a really tough situation. And the Greenbelt issue was a perfect example of that. And how they were able to rescind what they did. I really felt bad for the Minister of Housing that took the brunt of that issue, because he actually came to bat for us here in Nipissing. He was good. He and Vic were at Northern Pines when we were pulling it apart. And they were there, and they saw what we were trying to do. They knew we had something put together. So, when you look at that and you say, I mean, it is tough to be in government right now. I don't care what level it is, because everybody's got an opinion about what you're doing. And it's hard to stick to your integrity, because you get pulled in so many directions. And quite frankly, that environment in Toronto right now is toxic. I mean,
I bet you.
It is toxic, Dave. I've watched it, and I do have inroads in certain places that tell me about what's going on, and how some of these ministers and I said that to the Minister of Health in a Roma meeting after the fact. I said, I don't know how you do this. Like, how do you day in, day out take that pounding and still try to move forward with something that's good for the province? Tough stuff, boy. Very, very tough stuff.
Last word, Dave?
I just, it's been a great chat. Mark and I are kind of catching up here because we spent a lot of time in the last term working on some of these issues. So I'm very excited that it seems like council is going to pull the trigger on a community recreation center. I know that, it's got to come back still. They're going to go out for an RFP, but we need to do something. I mean, it's been 12 years, and the community wants it. I understand not all the community wants it, just like all the community doesn't use transit and don't see a need for it. But there's you mentioned girls hockey really big. Ballooning. Yeah, there's over 1,800 kids that are registered right now for to play ice sports, specifically hockey in North Bay.
Does that include ringette?
Sorry?
Does that include ringette?
Yep.
Okay.
Well over 1,800. Like the demand is exceeded pre-COVID numbers. For every kid that's enrolled, the city figures there's an average of 3 family members that come to see that kid play. So you do the numbers, it's well over, it's 7,000.
When I see all the grandparents, when people say seniors don't have anything to do with hockey, I find them all at the arenas.
And so
not all of them.
From September to April, there's, let's say it's 7,000. I can't do the math in my head, but if there's 1,800 kids and there's 3 adults per kid, it's around 7,000 citizens from September to April go in and out of those facilities. And I'll tell you, I play at West Ferris every Friday or most Fridays. It's always colder inside than it is outside. And the parents, when they go see their kids play there, you could just see how, the facilities are old and antiquated. And if the community of West Ferris decides they want to keep that building up and repurpose it for something, then have at it. That is a great piece of property. And as far as the housing issue, I feel for you, Mark. I know how frustrating it is. We've seen private developers do it, like the old Marshall Park School.
Yep.
So there's a formula out there. We just got to get all the stars aligning.
Yep.
Well, thank you for the work you guys do. I know you're not elected right now, but I know you're very interested, and we get to bring up these issues. And thanks for bringing Mark here. I know you're got a lot on your plate, and thank you for your service.
We'll have an announcement actually later on today, a DSSAB announcement, which will be quite interesting.
Okay, well, I'll add that in somehow. This won't air probably till Tuesday next week, but cool.
Cool.
Right on. Thank you.
Good. Thanks,
Thank you.
Dave.